Today I'm going to be showing you how I trim my bangs and why I keep them so short. I make videos every Saturdays and some Thursdays showing curly hair experiments, so if you want to see those, you can subscribe. Before we get into the video, just a disclaimer, I'm not a hairdresser or a specialist, I'm just a girl who likes to cut her own hair, and this is how I do it. I usually cut my bangs every 2 to 3 months, but lately my hair has been growing like crazy, so I've been cutting them once a month. I'm gonna make a video about hair growth soon because many of you guys have been requesting that, so it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. I typically dry cut my hair on day 2 to 3 hair, and I never really cut my hair when it's soaking wet because it's a lot easier to make mistakes and cut off too much when your hair is wet because it's stretched, it's longer, and when your hair is dry, you get a better sense of what it's going to look like. I cut each curl one strand at a time, and some of the curls need to be cut shorter than others because all of my curls seem to have a mind of their own. They're not really uniform, they're not perfect, they're all different, especially at the front of my head. If you were to pull down my bangs and see what they look like, they're all different lengths. Like, it's not an even cut. I just cut them based on how I need them to look. And I find the ones in the middle tend to hang lower, so sometimes every once in a while I might just take off a little bit in the middle. Now, I am definitely not a hairdresser, but I do like cutting my own hair because I don't trust anyone to touch my hair but me. And even then I make mistakes sometimes. So you're just gonna wanna cut spiral by spiral, just one loop by loop. That way you can see what you're doing and you're less likely to make mistakes if you take off very small bits at a time. So just flatten it out. The beauty of cutting curly bangs is that you don't need to be super precise with it. It doesn't have to be perfect because if you do make a mistake, no one can really tell unless it's a major mistake. But slight little variations in the length of each curl isn't going to make that big of a difference. I personally don't mind that my bangs aren't perfect. They're never really perfect. They kind of change from day to day depending on what hair day I'm on. They might be shorter if it's days 1 to 3, and they get a little bit longer and more stretched out as the days go on. And that's perfectly okay. I like that. I feel like it adds character to my hair. Makes things a little bit interesting. Once you finish cutting, you'll notice that your bangs are kind of blunt and they look a little funny. They look a lot better after you wash them and your curls have a chance to recoil and look normal again. Right now, this is what they look like once. This doesn't belong there. That's weird. You didn't belong there. This is what they look like when they're dried and they shrink back up together, and they look a lot better than they do when they're freshly cut. Because when they're freshly cut, the strands are kind of spread out and going in all different directions. So once you wash your hair and see what it looks like, you might have to go over it again. I sometimes have to do this, but it really depends on how perfect you want it to look. I don't mind the imperfections, like I said. So if it does look a little wonky, I might cut off a piece here, a piece there to make it look a little bit better. But I don't always do this. It really just depends on you and what you feel like doing. Growing up, my mom used to trim my hair with dull kitchen scissors, and my ends were always split, and I didn't understand why. It was so frustrating. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I realized the damage that the kitchen scissors were causing that I was continuing to use to trim my hair. And I trimmed my hair all the time. I thought, oh, my ends should be so healthy. I trim my hair so often. I don't understand why my hair is breaking so much. I was trimming my bangs at work one day on my break, and one of my coworkers saw me cutting my hair with just like regular kitchen scissors, and she said, "Oh, Amanda, what are you doing? Don't cut your hair with those. You're gonna damage your hair." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And then she reached into her purse and pulled out some scissors. I was so confused. Who carries scissors in their purse? I mean, I'm not gonna judge. She's sweet, so. She pulled out these scissors and she said, "These are hairdressing scissors, and this is what you should be using to cut your hair. Let me cut your bangs for you." And she did, and the sound that the scissors made were so different from the crunch that I was used to with the kitchen scissors. It was so smooth and so crisp that it all clicked in my head, and I realized when I go to the hairdresser doesn't use kitchen scissors to cut my hair. They use special hairdressing scissors, and it doesn't sound crunchy. and I felt really stupid that I hadn't figured this out on my own sooner. If your scissors are currently crunching when you're trimming your hair, it's probably time to get some new scissors. You can find them at the drugstore or any beauty supply store. I got my scissors from just a regular drugstore. I first started rocking the curly bangs when my hair started growing out from a buzz cut. I buzzed all my hair off about 2 years ago, and when it started to grow out, my bangs were really little and I loved it. I thought, this is so cute. I think I'm going to keep them this short as my hair is growing out, and I have been doing that ever since. So if you'll notice, my bangs are pretty thin, and the reason why I keep them so thin is because my hair is kind of on the thin side, so I like to keep as much volume as I can on top. The chunkier you make your bangs, the more hair you're taking away from the volume on top. And I need as much volume as I can get, so I keep my bangs fairly thin. So you can see the part is not perfect because, like I said, I've been cutting these since my hair has been growing out. It's not like something I created from nothing. They've always been there since my hair has been growing out from a buzz cut. If you've accidentally cut your bangs too thin, what you can do is make the parts smaller and then try to keep the hairs that you want to grow out separate from the rest of your head. I've had to do this in the past. And just let them grow out, and once the parts on top are longer, then you can just kind of let it be. But until then, try to keep them separate and keep the parts that you want to keep short away from the parts you want to grow out. I have a new Instagram page at Amanda B. Curly, and that's where I post videos and pictures of all things hair. It's just for my curl friends, so if you guys are interested in that, you can check me out on there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you next time. I love you. Mwah. Bye.